name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. Now, I loved the first Space Jam when I was a kid. It was one of the very first movies I ever saw that scared me. Like, just when those little creatures became big and all that, like, that terrified me as a kid. It's not a very good movie, but I still loved it when I was a kid. And I was never looking for a second one because I don't think a second one ever needed to be made. And after watching this movie, yep, I was absolutely right. As per usual, this movie is a piece of shit. It's absolutely awful. Hate it, despise it. There's nothing good in this movie. This movie is everything wrong with movies nowadays because it's less of a movie and more of a commercial. That's right, it's a commercial. Do you want HBO Max? Do you want to see do you want to see all your favorite characters in one place? Go ahead, subscribe to HBO Max. Only $15.99 a month. Do it. Like, that's what this entire movie felt like. And I knew that going into it. And I'll be honest, I went in with zero expectations. I went in knowing and honestly hoping I'd hate it. I'm not going to lie about that. I saw the trailers. It looked awful. It looked like a commercial for HBO Max. And if I was proven wrong, I would have been happy to admit that. But no, just scene after scene, it just became more and more true. This is a movie made by a studio that doesn't even care about its own movies. They don't care. They don't care about the craftsmanship that went into it. They don't care about the love and passion that went into them. They just see them as another property that they own that they can advertise to get more people to subscribe to them. This movie is soulless. It's completely soulless. And just what they do with all these different properties made me cringe just time and time again. Like, this was a tough movie for me to get through. Like, first, whenever they're playing basketball and you've got all these characters on the outside of the court, you know, they want you to be like, oh, it's the Mask, and oh, it's Penguin, and oh, it's King Kong. They want you to react like that. But the truth is that it's unbearably bad because none of the characters out in the crowd looked like the characters from the movies. I think it's most evident with Mr. Freeze. They have someone walking around who's meant to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in Batman and Robin. And you can just tell that the guy's wearing this plastic mask. Like, it looks like something you'd pick up from the Spirit of Halloween shop. And it's distracting. Not because of, oh, look at that character. It's distracting because you're like, oh my goodness, like, it looks cheap. It looks bad. And there's moments where they go into all these different movies. They go into Mad Max Fury Road. They go into Casablanca. And just what they were doing with them was not clever. It was just very cringy. Like, if they found a way to go into all these movies and they had at least some clever jokes, I'd probably still be really negative about it, but I'd be less negative. But just the fact that they just do it for the sake of it and it's apparent throughout, it just makes me roll my eyes and be like, oh, is this what movies have come to? And yes, the answer is yes. Because between this movie, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Ready Player One, the Emoji Movie, we're getting more and more of these movies as the times progress, and I think it's very unfortunate. And if you want to talk about cringe, this movie, any attempt at humor is beyond cringy. There's one moment where Pokey the Pig is doing a rap, and my goodness, if I saw this movie in theaters, I think I'd die of embarrassment of just having to sit through that. Like, it was bad. It was really, really freaking bad. But this movie is about a father and a son, and just, I never cared for the story. I never cared for these characters. I thought they were written absolutely terribly, and they just use every cliche in the book without doing anything more with it. And those moments where they foreshadow later on in the movie, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's obviously going to come into play. Like, there's a scene early on where they're playing the son's video game of basketball, and I'm just like, okay, that's totally coming into play later on. Yes, of course it did. But LeBron James is just a terrible actor. Like, he can't act. He shows no emotion. He's just flat throughout. He has no screen presence. He has no charisma. And I don't think he was good in this movie whatsoever. None of the other actors were good. Zendaya voices Lola Bunny, and Zendaya is an amazing actress. She's very talented, but she's not a voice actress. And I don't know why they picked... Yeah, I do. They picked her because she's Zendaya, but they shouldn't have picked her. There's a small section of the movie where Little Ray Howley's in the movie, and I thought that guy was hilarious in Get Out and Bad Trip, but he's unbearably annoying here. Like, every joke he made was just cringy and painfully bad to sit through, and Yeah, he's really bad in this movie. The entire cast is awful. You know what? I'll give some slight credit where it's due. Don Cheadle. Is he good in this movie? No. But is he obviously having a fun time? Yeah, he's having a fun time. He's easily the most charismatic and likable actor in this movie. But everyone else is just awful. But not just the acting. Like, the Looney Tunes characters themselves don't act like the Looney Tunes characters. They act like someone who saw 2 Looney Tunes cartoons and just tried to write them like that. And it didn't work. Just the way they talked and they acted, it just didn't feel like them. At no point did it feel like the Looney Tunes characters were actually there. It just felt like a bad impersonation. They might have looked like them, but they weren't the Looney Tunes characters I know and love. What else can I talk about? Oh yes, this movie is visually ugly. It is so unappealing to look at. From beginning to end, it's just a very ugly movie. And they eventually add in 3D animation, and I don't think it looked good at all, and I don't even know why they did it. Like, it serves no purpose in the plot, and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna make you look like 3D animation for the sake of it now, so yeah, that's the thing that happens. But I think one of the biggest issues of this movie, besides the obvious product placement and just it being one giant commercial and just it being completely soulless, heartless, and just an unbearable, cringy mess, is the fact that I couldn't have possibly cared about this basketball game because there's no aspect about it grounded in reality. Like, to my knowledge, the original Space Jam, yeah, it's the Looney Tunes playing against the monsters, and yeah, they did the wacky hijink stuff, but I still remember them playing actual basketball, while this game that they're playing here just feels like Calvin Ball. Like, have you guys ever read Calvin and Hobbes? You know, they play this game where you just make up rules on the spot, and that's what this game felt like. Like, it's just like, oh, he got it in, so that's 38 points because he did it in a cool way. Or, oh, he got 500 points because he did that. And it's just like, how could I possibly care about this game when just every single second, it's just like they're making up a new rule. And it's just like, well, of course the Looney Tunes are going to catch up through some contrived method. Like, of course they are. You know, they don't even have to get better at the game. They can just get one ball in and they could be like, oh, for some reason that one basket was worth 900 points and they could have caught up like that. So I couldn't have possibly cared about the game. So in that way, if I was at all invested with the story, I would have been totally out of it by that point because there's no stakes and there's no tension because there's no rules. There's nothing that keeps this game grounded in reality. It's just chaotic and all over the place without any structure, and it shows. Look, I'm tired about talking about this movie. This movie is everything wrong with movies nowadays. They don't appreciate and love movies. They just see it as another product to sell. And they use this movie to sell a bunch of other products. That's the way the studio wanted to make this movie. I think it's very depressing in that way. I think the acting is bad. I think the story's awful. I think this movie's just a mess in every single possible way. It's an embarrassing, cringy watch. I hated this movie. It's just awful. Don't ever watch it. If you like the original Space Jam, stay away from this one. Because I'm telling you, it's bad. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and give Space Jam 2, A New Legacy, a 1 out of 10. It's still better than that Cinderella movie that came out this year. But anyways, what did you think of Space Jam 2, A New Legacy? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin,